One of the biggest things that had just happened in the Trump administration was Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard, as you know, is the head of the Department of Information, DNI, and Director of National Intelligence. Big thing. She knows all the secrets. She knows everything. She knows what is, what isn't, what happened, what didn't happen. She's the keeper of the secrets. Well, she just declassified some documents that are about as important as anything I think I've ever heard in my particular life involving a president and what they were trying to do. And those documents just said that when Donald Trump was elected in 2016, the Democrat Party was so upset about it that Hillary didn't win that Barack Obama called a special gathering of the intel people, the big people, Clapper, Comey, all of those particular, Brennan, all of them. And because there was a presidential daily brief, every day the presidential gets a daily brief. And the intel people figured out there was no Russia, helping Trump. That was the whole line they were using. Remember, Russia was going to fix the election. Russia was going to do this. Russia was going to do all that. And the intel community said, ain't there. Well, that daily brief was not given to the president. It was trashed and replaced with something else because the administration didn't want that out. And then because the public sees those things, didn't want that out. So they got together, had a little meeting, a little secret meeting, confab. Notes of that meeting have now been released. And essentially what it says, they decided to keep it up, use the Russia thing, and use everything possible to try to get Donald Trump impeached, thrown out of office, in prison. You call it, they tried everything. Everything. And this came all the way from the top to Barack Obama. Now we're hearing all this stuff, and here's all the stuff that Tulsi Gabbard has released. It's paperwork. And the people she released it to said, well, what are you going to do with this stuff? You got all this stuff, now what are you going to do with it? Tulsi Gabbard said, well, we're turning it over to the Justice Department. Well, anytime you turn everything over to the Justice Department, you can't guarantee anything's going to happen because, well, they could just sit there and sit on it, not do anything with it. Well, Tulsi Gabbard said, Pam Bondi says we're going to get to the bottom of this stuff, and she may very well do that. Will she do it? Will the Attorney General go after a former sitting president? The former FBI head, former national security head, former head of the CIA, all of those head people, the Brennans, the Clappers, the Comeys, Obama, would she actually go after them and bring charges, grand jury stuff, charges against them? Well, if you did it in Washington, D.C., nothing would happen, folks. Let's be honest. Because everybody in Washington, D.C. they're Democrats, and they're about as party-oriented as you could. So nothing would happen. But because of the way it was done, it could be introduced in other jurisdictions outside of Washington, D.C. Or that evidence could be presented and a trial could happen not in D.C., somewhere outside of that. But will it? Ask yourself that. Will the Department of Justice actually go after a former sitting president, a former head of the CIA, former big-time people, former head of the FBI, and hit them all with treason? Because that's what this was. These were people trying to say, we don't like the fact the public voted for someone, and we're going to try to get them destroyed and taken out of office. He had 2 impeachments. We're going to try everything to do that because we don't want him in office, and we're angry that Hillary didn't get in. And created a massive amount of garbage that was put out there. And all the stuff they put out there, they knew it was wrong, but they fed the beast. And they kept feeding it, and they kept feeding it. Even during his entire first administration, that's what he was fighting off. Remember, they had to bring in the special investigator. And that took, years? And $40 million, your taxpayer money, my taxpayer money? $40 million. And you know what they found? Nothing. There was no there. They were trying to put him in. They were trying to put Trump in jail. That was their goal. Every lie they could come up with. Well, now all the paperwork's come out. And here it is. Tulsi Gabbard declassified it because she can. And now it's out there for people to see. Now what's going to happen? Well, goes to the Department of Justice, like I said, Pam Bondi. What is Pam Bondi going to do with this stuff? I don't know. Will she bring it up? Will she send it to a grand jury? Say, here's the stuff you want to indict? It's never happened in America, folks. Are we getting close to something that's never occurred that may in fact happen in your lifetime, in my lifetime? A president being charged with treason? Really? Well, that's where we stand. Now, remember George W. Bush administration, the nuclear war, nuclear weapons in Iran, or in Iraq, rather? Well, it didn't happen. Nothing happened to him. That nothing happened to him. Please understand that. So Washington covers this stuff over. I don't care what party you're in. They did it for George W. Bush. Are they going to cover it up for Barack Obama trying to take down Donald Trump? I don't know. But I can tell you this. The information's out there. You can believe it. You can disbelieve it. But the numbers are there. I just read a text that Donald Trump wrote saying, hey, this is going on. These people are just doing this to get me. And apparently, according to the paperwork that's been released, in their own words, that's exactly what they were trying to do. So America, what do we do now? This is a serious constitutional crisis. And where it's going to go is anybody's guess. But at least now you know something has happened. And this one could be really, really bad and upsetting to the American system as we know it.